Hey, it's Kevin with the New Warehouse Podcast, and I am here in New York City at the National Retail Federation big show. As you can see behind us, this is quite the big show. And today I'm going to be joined by Peak Technologies and Zebra Technologies. We're going to talk a little bit about their partnership, but we're really going to focus on smart technologies within the warehousing space. And we're going to talk a little bit about their partnership too as well. So I'm going to be joined by Tony Rivers, who is the CEO at Peak Technologies, Tom Bianculli, who's the CTO at Zebra Technologies, and Matt Plude, who is the CTO at Peak Technologies as well. So first off, how you guys doing?
Awesome.
Great.
Very well. Great
Fantastic.
to be here.
Yes, definitely. Last day of the show, right? So how's this weekend been? Yeah.
Been busy the whole first 2 days has been rocking.
Good. Yeah. I was here. This is very early in the morning as we're recording this, but I was here yesterday and walking around, and your booths were both buzzing, so that was great to see. So happy to sit down with you here, and happy to be able to see this view behind us too. I think very cool setup. So let's kick things off here, and for people maybe that are not familiar, give them some kind of background on what Peak does, what Zebra does. So Tony, why don't you start off here? Tell us a little bit about Peak Technologies.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Kevin. So Peak Technologies is a global solution provider, and we focus around the data capture space. So think of anything point in time information-wise, data collection, we provide solutions around that area. So we do it through multiple methods, and we use a lot of automation, which we're going to talk about here in a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tom, tell us a little bit about Zebra. For people that don't know Zebra.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we've been working really closely with Peak, and really happy with the presence we have here. And as you said, the booth was buzzing yesterday. But you think Zebra, you think visible, connected, and optimized. And the way we do that for the front line of operations is by driving productivity at the point of activities. Like this is the way we like to say it. And we do that through asset visibility, through our partnership with Peak. When you think about data capture, all the new forms of data capture too, with machine vision even and computer vision, and those are all areas that we're collaborating on that drive asset visibility into operations. And then the second is what we call the connected front line, and this is just getting every worker connected. And if you really think about it, if you've got the asset visibility across process, product, inventory, and then you've got every worker connected, we can orchestrate the workflow, reduce errors, drive productivity, and that's what our customers look for us to do. And we can't do it without partners like Peak.
Yeah, absolutely. We love productivity increases, right? Efficiency gains, right? So
those
are
are sexy too.
Of course. Yeah. We love sexy efficiency gains, right? Every second matters, definitely. So Peak and Zebra, obviously longtime partners, right? So I guess Tony, Tom, tell us a little bit about just the partnership and what that actually means for the industry.
Yeah, sure. So we've been partnered with Zebra for probably 4 decades now, so a very long time, going way back to the origins. And so we work very closely together to understand the market, understand what customers need in order to be more productive and more efficient. And so we take the full portfolio from Zebra, and then we wrap a set of solutions around it, services and other things, to allow customers to quickly get this technology to market and get those efficiencies. So it's a very strong partnership. We work closely together, as you can see out on the floor here. We're collaborating on a bunch of different solutions that we're showing here at the show. And we have regular cadences together around, where's the market going? Where's it headed? What are our customers talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been an amazing collaboration over the years, as you said, Tony. And I think it's often underestimated when you think about taking the building blocks that Zebra creates, a lot of the hardware components. If you think about RFID, you think about machine vision cameras, all the different forms of data capture elements, even some of the software we're developing. But getting that instantiated down to a solution that delivers an outcome for a given use case, there's just such a long tail of opportunity around that. We can't do it without partners like Peak, and Peak's been really uniquely positioned in helping us do that, especially in the warehouse, the concrete floor use cases. And reaching the market and getting down to those end solutions just doesn't happen without Peak.
Yeah. Great to hear about how that partnership works, right? And some of those technologies that Peak is taking the building blocks, as you said, and putting together, we got to see recently at the Executive Briefing Center with Matt here. So when we talk about some of those smart technologies, I'll come over to the CTOs here, right, on the technical side. Matt, tell us how do you kind of define what are these smart technologies within warehouse operations?
Yeah, so smart technologies to me is everything that enables automation. And that could be even your traditional data capture, where we might be doing things that would normally be a barcode scan that's a manual process, but instead we're doing it while things are moving and gaining efficiency along the way. So when we do that, we have to level up the tech, and Zebra is investing a lot of money and investing in that newer space where we're able to create automation through things like machine vision, where we're now capturing things in time of flight. So when we talk about smart technologies, it's really everything that enables material movement and data visibility, as well as all the insights that are required to actually create the automations instead of just having that data capture. So we start with the solution, the hardware, we capture all the data and the insights, and we use all of that to be able to create the automation. And that's where we get to unlock the true potential of those solutions, the smart technologies.
Yeah, interesting. Anything you want to add?
Makes a ton of sense, Matt. Yeah, I was just saying, we went through a bit of a rebranding exercise over the last few months, and we've been focusing in on this phrase of intelligent operations. And it's not a definition that we've created, it's one that's out there in the industry, but it really talks about bringing AI, data, and automation together with human expertise to optimize workflows. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but I think it's been around for a long time. And what it means now is fundamentally different than what it meant in the past, because AI has been reinvented with generative AI and just general cognitive intelligence about what's happening in scenes with things like vision language models that Peak's working on. We're collaborating on some of those kind of vision models. Automation is transformed. This is an automation that's in a cage that you can't interact with. Now it's collaborative automation where people and robots are kind of working together, and data is just getting fundamentally unlocked. I mean, there's, it used to be in silos, it sat dark, and now it's being unlocked for a lot of different use cases. So bringing AI, data, and automation together in 2026 is a lot different than it was, 10 or 15 years ago. But it's still at the foundation, or still what's driving intelligent operations. And I think the other thing that goes often overlooked is the human expertise component of that. So it's just, you can't replace the years of experience of what does it actually take to run a warehouse or a factory or a plant floor. So bringing that human expertise together with those three things, we think is just fundamental to optimizing workflows, and that's basically what we do together.
Yeah, I think the cool thing about what you just said is when we look at something greenfield, obviously we could have something totally automated, like fully robotic, but 90% of the investment infrastructure right now is not fully automated, and it's designed for a human worker to be interacting with the environment that they're in. So the technologies that we have in order to unlock the next level of automation and potential have to be something that is going to be like a human equivalent, where we've got some people that are going to be doing certain workflows in order to be able to do things. So we have to equip them with the tools to make the right decision at the right time. So it's kind of a way to be able to brownfield advance your operations in a meaningful way.
Yeah, and I think that's such a great point, right? Because so many warehouses are still existing, right? And I think so many people too, when we think about the landscape of warehouse companies, right? The size of businesses is just such a wide spectrum, right? And you have a lot of small businesses that have warehouses, distribution centers, and a lot of them, they don't want to go get an entirely new greenfield just to be able to utilize some of this new technology, right? So I think that's a great point. And I love the tie-in of the human expertise and how do we still kind of leverage that. And you mentioned there, Tom, too, about, over the last couple of years, like with generative AI and the accessibility there. I'm curious, like from both of your perspectives, I mean, how have you kind of kept up with that and been able to make sure that like you're leveraging the latest, right? Because it seems like with the AI advancements, it's like every couple weeks there's like a new model, right? There's something new, right? So how do you kind of harness that in and make sure that you're including all of that in what you're offering?
So we're working with some of the largest players in the field. So you think about the hyperscalers like a Google and what Gemini is doing. We've got a great partnership with Google Cloud, and I think the first thing relative to what you're saying is not pretending that you have the answer. Like nobody really knows. I mean, Google included, Zebra included, what the boundaries of some of these things are. So we've taken some of the technology, like using vision language models, using Gemini to look at picking applications, see what it can understand about a scene, and basically push the technology to the breaking point, and then back off and say, okay, that gives us an idea of what can we do with it today? What can we do with it in a year or two from now? And it starts to kind of put some pins on the map as to what timing looks like. The second one is, which I love this about working with with Matt and working with Tony at Peak is, and Tony started off with it, is we got our ear to the ground with customers. So what we're showing in the booth here, what we do together in the warehouse, we're never doing in a sort of, we hatched an idea inside the four walls of Peak or Zebra. We're doing it because a customer said, I've got a problem, and we're looking to solve the problem. So I think if you're looking at what are the boundaries of the tech, and you're really listening to what the problems are, you can think about, you start to piece together what's valuable in the market? What are people really valuing? And what's becoming increasingly possible? We're always asking that at Zebra because what's becoming possible is changing, as you're pointing out, constantly. And so we're working with some of the biggest companies to just understand what that looks like, whether it's a Palantir, it's a Google and a Gemini kind of model, and then put those things together. And I think that's, if you look at what we're showing in the booth here, we'll probably get to it, but with Total Wine and with Lowe's Home Improvement, it started with the problem. And then we worked backwards from what's possible in terms of pushing the boundaries with the tech.
Yeah, and same answer as him, just from a different perspective, right? Because they make such a phenomenal technology platform for us, where we've got some stuff that maybe we've written for supply chain automation. And now to the previous point that we had, where we need to take the mobile worker and equip them with the same insights. Something as simple as like damage detection. We're doing that all day, trying to figure out whether or not a box is safe to stack and get it onto a palletizer. That same model, when we can't do an automated workflow, needs to go through post-processing. So equipping the mobile worker with the same insights and making those models portable and running on a Zebra device, because it's built and architected for AI on that device, unlocks a totally different potential, where now we have our traditional automation, where you might have a conveyor, you might have robots moving goods, but we have to get to that place where we're interacting with humans and we want to give them the insights to make a quick and informed decision. The platform that they're developing against gives us the ability to be flexible on that device, to take what would traditionally be something that's just automated and dark, to his previous points, dark data for a decision. And now it's presented to the forefront, where a user is getting either an augmented reality presentation of this is what it is, or an interactable workflow on the device that they use already to do their traditional workflows. So it's really about leveling up what that automation looks like, while equipping the human worker to be more effective, so they can focus on the more high value activities.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's a great thing there, to be able to, how do we make that worker just more powerful in a sense, right? And address kind of what, maybe a couple of years ago we thought was a little impossible, right? Now it seems like more things are possible every single day. So very interesting there. And you mentioned, kind of having the ear to the ground, right, with Peak of what's going on in the warehouse. So I'm curious, from Tony or Matt's perspective, like of these technologies, like what are you seeing as having the biggest impact on operations right now, and what's resonating the most with the customers?
Yeah, I think it's the real-time visibility. So the ability to have the information in real time and act quickly. And so these technologies are unlocking our ability. With the combination of the additional data and movement, we're able to unlock things much quicker. And so companies can make decisions faster and get better outcomes. And so it's all about creating a good experience and an outcome. And so the different technologies that we're able to leverage now, as compared to, when we talked earlier, we talked about, 20 years ago with the green screen, right? And so now we've got all this great technology in our hands and around us, that we're able to use the full environment as the experience for the worker, and make things much quicker available to them to make a right decision at the right time, right? So I think maybe, Matt, there's probably some of the specific technologies.
Yeah,
but
I was gonna say, double clicking in on that, I think that the two things that we're seeing as big drivers right now, specifically in warehouse, RFID and machine vision, right? We're evolving from your traditional barcode scan that requires a human at every place that you change of custody. I'm doing a receive, a pick, a put away, a pack. I don't care what the operation is. It's a person doing a job. And as we start to evolve, and we're looking at how do we make that process automated or have fewer barcode scans, the easy answer is we put machine vision in, which is allowing us to be able to capture that data while it's in flight, right? So the evolution is, before it was bring things to a place, stop, scan, bring things to a place, stop, scan. And now we're just edging a little extra productivity out in order to be able to get maybe an extra 10% within a facility, which is a massive efficiency gain for perspective, right? And then we have the same thing happening today when we take a look at overall operations with machine vision. How much can we get to the place where we can get that data to a system that can automate? For things like ASRSs and highly automated customers, it requires a handoff from your system of record to the ASRS for them to be able to put it away for a reclamation later, right? So all of that requires more advanced technologies, and machine vision, I think, is leading the way. We've been partnering with Zebra on a lot of different solutions to be able to capture at those places where we're passing chain of custody, from receiving to storage, from storage to a staging location, to staging and to shipping, right? As we're starting to move those materials, we capture that data automatically, whether it's RFID, which we see a huge investment in these. I assume you see the same thing. RFID is booming right now. And we have the same exact thing that we're seeing today in machine vision investments. How do I capture what I might not be able to see with RFID and still make that same automation? So they're complementary technologies that we're seeing a huge amount of demand for right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's the RFID is the fastest growing business at Zebra right now. And I think often you look at RFID and you look at machine vision, and those two things aren't equated with automation. But to your point, Matthew, it's like that is what's driving the automation because you're not now manually stopping, you're keeping a continuous flow, and you're reducing errors. So it's going to be much more accurate than doing anything manual because it's happening in an automatic fashion. And I think also the multimodality of these things, where we're starting to see them come together, where the machine vision can see the box and the label and the outside of what's happening, and the RFID can read contents in a lot of cases because we're seeing more and more tags be deployed from an RFID point of view. I think the estimates now are well over 100 billion tags are going to ship by 2028. So,
oh wow,
just in that 1 year, from an RFID perspective, if you go back to 2020, it was 20 billion tags. Yeah. So over 5 or 6 years, it's gone up 5x, and that's also driving the desire, because people know, hey, the contents, the shoes that are in that box are going to be readable, when it passes through that scan tunnel or that RFID tunnel. I think one other thing I would add is just on the wearable side. This is a place, Zebra kind of invented the category. This is wearable computing technology, so maybe mounted on your wrist, ring scanners, keeping your hands free, allowing you to get the job done physically, but while having all of the connected tech and data capture on you. And I think that's another thing when you think about wearables combined with machine vision, combined with RFID, we're seeing a lot of uptake in that. And I guess we'll get to it, but I'm just reminded of the fact that speaking with so many retailers over the last few days, all these retailers, right, guys, are thinking about their store as a warehouse because they're fulfilling from the store. So we're seeing a lot of this tech deployed in the store because it's not that intrusive. I mean, RFID can be put into the store without it taking over the store format, right?
Previously, just even maybe a decade ago, waiting a week to get a package was fine. Now you talk to the younger generation, you talk to people instantaneous. Like I mean, some of the tech is evolving to, it's at your door in less than 20 minutes, right? So, I mean, this is causing us to have to change the methods and the technology that we use to be able to deliver that experience, right? And so it's really changing the market.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's an interesting point, right? Because I've seen that too, where it's the retail outlet has almost become like a secondary fulfillment center or like another warehouse, right? In a sense, right? And I'm curious about kind of like that convergence there, and how does some of this technology, especially like the RFID and things allowing this real-time visibility, how does that investment in the overall supply chain, right? Starting within the operations or the distribution center and then coming to the store. I mean, how does that help the, consumer experience, but also like the business as a whole, make sure that they have everything where it needs to be? How does that kind of boost that? I'll open that too.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's absolutely critical to have an accurate and reportable supply chain in order to be able to meet your customer demand. I think it was a bit of a layup, right? But if we take a look at what that actually means, like behind the curtains, is if, let's just say, I'll make up an example, Bounty paper towels. If there's a shortage in Bounty paper towels and we're not moving them through the supply chain, they're not going to make it to the retail store. That's a missed opportunity for some people to buy Bounty paper towels. So identifying where I'm not able to receive and not able to sort and be able to fill my demand plan is what eventually will lead to the leads and lags for getting the product to the customer in a timely fashion. When we look at the demand of a customer, to Tony's point, 1 day was acceptable for shipments. We're now in 4 hours in non-urban markets. We're in 5 minutes, sometimes 6 minutes for fastest pick in urban markets to deliver something to somebody's house. So because the game has changed so quickly, we're moving to different modalities where we have to be able to identify the product, pick the product, ship the product as an individual piece instead of a large order in order to do these micro fulfillments at the speed of demand of the customer right now, which is just at an unprecedented level. And that requires the right decision at the right time, which is made off of the data that without that data capture mechanism, it's just not possible. So having an enriched supply chain, that's, do I have the product? Is the product actually in the box, right? I've got a case and I think that there's 12 inside it, but with RFID, I can actually know that there's only 3. So when I ship that, I'm actually gonna be shorting that store 7 or whatever the number is, 9 on their demand plan, which means now we've got a customer disappoint potential, or my store looks barren, right? Both of those are negative impressions. So using the supply chain to feed a positive impression is absolutely critical. And I was even surprised in some of the sessions upstairs when we got the opportunity to sit in, when we're looking at retail front of store, they're still mentioning the supply chain as a critical lever in a lot of the presentations on how they're able to enable the front store operations to maximize customer experience. So it's a really unique place with that increased demand, trying to figure out a way to be able to maximize your customer satisfaction as well. Now expectations are just at a new level.
In order to meet those demands, you've got to have the visibility, right? And so that technology gives us real-time visibility into where are all these assets, right? And that's where, to your point, the concept in the old days of a centralized warehouse dispersing to everywhere, product could have sat there for weeks and not been monetized, not been delivered to a customer. Now with this level of visibility, they know where the asset is and they know how to monetize and get that asset out into a customer's hands. And that level of visibility and insight, these technologies are allowing us to take that to the next level. So it's not, I know what I had 3 days ago. It's, I know what I had 3 minutes ago, right? Like I know exactly in real time where all these assets are at any given time, and I can pick it and pull it from anywhere in my organization to fulfill that customer's need and get a good, happy customer, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think we've seen, some of our customers have renamed their warehouses to flow centers for this exact reason.
Yes.
Where it's like, it's not about storage, it's about just flowing through and diverting it to the right place at the right time. Just to build on what both of you guys are saying is, if you look at like where it all lands in the supply chain and gets to the store, that's lots of conversations we're having here at NRF in terms of just the inventory visibility and the accuracy in the store. So that's been at like 65%, even by some of the world's best retailers in terms of accuracy. And we all know, like if you're fulfilling from a warehouse and you had 65% inventory accuracy, you'd be
very bad. Yeah.
So if the store is really going to be a fulfillment center, that accuracy's got to go way up, and that's where we're seeing the technology that Tony and Matt are talking about, particularly RFID, and particularly in the apparel space, I would say, where just item level tagging is there. But as more and more of these tags ship, we were talking about the numbers earlier in terms of 100 billion by 2028, just more and more merchandise is already shipping tagged or tagged at the carton level. And Walmart spoke about this at RFID Journal Live, but they're at the point now where probably about 2/3 of their store is item level tagged, which is pretty amazing. So all those suppliers have kind of already adopted the tagging, which then makes it a lot easier for the rest of the industry to ride the coattails of that. And I think that's part of the reason why we're seeing all of this growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's very interesting because I think, to your point, Tom, like, fulfilling from the store from an accuracy perspective is very challenging because you have people that, they pick something up off the shelf and then they decide, no, I don't want it, and just throw it here by the register. And, then somebody's trying to go and get that last unit for an online order and, it's out of stock. It's not here. We can't find it.
Can't find it.
And then a day later, it is there. And is it there or is it not there? Right? So I think some of that stuff certainly helps to narrow that down and find out where that is for the real-time visibility. So I'm curious on that point, right? Oftentimes, the retail side, right, and the fulfillment warehouse side is within the supply chain, but oftentimes they're different teams, right? So are you seeing where supply chains are transforming that a little bit and kind of uniting these teams together as more fulfillment occurs at the store level?
I'd say yes and yes, personally. I mean, if we take a look at it, and your employees that were normally doing customer-facing activities are likely going to be doing fulfillment in aisle because they're already present, right? If they're already there doing stocking activities, they can also be doing a pre-fulfillment for an order that's coming up. But we also have the influx of the gig economy where we've got people shopping our retail stores for orders that might have come in off platform, right? We're coming in from an e-commerce platform that might not be our customers. And now we've got orders coming inbound that are being picked in our store, even not by our associates, right? So it's created this weird need for visibility of stuff that's in stock and where it belongs versus stuff that's moving, to be able to have the right stock level to make sure that if I've got it in my warehouse, I pull it forward into that store as quickly as possible because I know my stuff is being shopped but hasn't been purchased and hasn't left the store yet, right? So my inventory level hasn't adjusted in my system. So we're looking at that time of flight data is kind of the new evolution of what we're looking at, which is where RFID, I think, is starting to have such a huge amount of value. Because the Zebra product, the ATRs that they've got, which is an RFID reader that sits up in the ceiling, is able to help us find those RFID tags as they move. So a dormant tag is something that's available. A tag that's in flight is something that's already been shopped, right? So now we can start to make in-the-moment decisions of, actually, I shouldn't let that person be able to see that come up in their shopping cart as an available item because I don't have enough buffer stock to be able to fulfill that in the future. Right, so we're making decisions to avoid customer disappointment on things like e-commerce platforms where we've got product that's being shopped by customers and by gig and by e-commerce platforms all at the same time.
And if you think about it, you can take that right back into the warehouse as well, right? So you think about the example of a retail floor, but if you think about a warehouse on the back end, knowing where those pallets are, knowing where those boxes are, knowing if what's in the box is exactly what's supposed to be in the box, those insights allow you to feed the front of store or the retail experience to be much better, right? And so you need those insights, and you need, and you asked the question earlier, traditionally there would have been, silos, right? You would have your warehouse team, your front of store team, a different team, and they weren't sharing these insights. And now with the real-time visibility and the insights coming across, they're able to use that data connected to provide a much better flow through their enterprise and get much better fulfillment of their inventory, much quicker turns, and a much better experience, right?
I think the interesting thing about that is the finger pointing is just going way down. And I think this brings a source of truth, a single source of truth.
Yeah.
And so that's then being used by all of these different personas, whether it's the supply chain planning people, supply chain orchestration, the retail store operations folks, to kind of have that one source of truth across, which is
which is critical.
It is absolutely critical. It's the only way to avoid that. The other place where we're seeing convergence is between planning and execution systems, which is kind of interesting. So you think about demand planning, forecasting, and what you're going to order, and then where Matt was going with the actual execution of that, meaning like getting it onto the shelf, getting it from the back of the store to the front of the store. Hey, it's available to promise, but if I can't find it, then
Can't fulfill it.
then I can't fulfill it. Or it's I know it's in the store, but it's not on the shelf. Or as you were getting at earlier, people misplace things. Worse than that, sometimes is promotional backfire. So you put an end cap up to promote something, and then pickers don't realize they should be going there because they're going in the usual location. So it's actually there to pick, but they can't find it. And then at picking labor, the clock's ticking, and they wandered around the store for 10 minutes trying to find something. You're never getting that money back either, right? So having the real-time view, I think, is critical. And RFID has got to the point now where the cost as a tech, we can track things in motion, as you were getting at, Matt. Second to second.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting to see like how far we've progressed, right, on the tracking, right, and to be able to solve some of these issues. But I'm curious, the more influx of RFID adoption and so this machine vision for tracking and that real time visibility, the traditional way to move things was through like a scan, right? A barcode. So I mean, do you see the scan going away or decreasing in the frequency over time?
Yeah. So listen, I think it's the right tech for the right problem, right? And so there's, first of all, the barcode's not going away for sure because it's used in a lot of these machine vision applications to actually identify items. The actual manual scan, I think to the extent we can automate and error-proof that with fixed infrastructure, it's going to make sense. This is the case, like you think about scan tunnels, you think about there's lots going on with ceiling mounted cameras that are looking at shelving or even computer vision at the shelf that's able to recognize product. We've got a whole AI suite now we launched and available on our mobile computers that can do things like product recognition, recognize price. So where you have use cases where, hey, I want to snap a picture of a shelf and use AI to automate the planogram compliance. You forget reading barcodes because the product's not even oriented the right way to read the barcodes.
Yeah.
So that's in some ways replacing a manual scan of every item, but that's what makes sense for that workflow. If you think about, I don't know, I'm at a checkout lane or I'm at a pack station and I'm scanning every bar. I'm going to scan every barcode to load into that package to verify I'm putting the right thing into the box. We're not going to see it go away there. So I think it's going to be a mix. The barcode is going to stay. And then we're going to see a mix of use cases of fixed infrastructure, automated versus handheld manual scans.
Taking pieces of each of these things and using them in combination, you're able to solve for things that you couldn't have solved for 5 years ago, right? And so it's the unlock is massive, and it goes all the way from front of store all the way back through the warehouse. So it can be similarly in applications, at the dock door when it's coming on and off, you get pallet visibility. It could be at the pallet wrap where you're getting visibility to all the boxes like we showed you up in Littleton, right? There's lots of different ways that you can incorporate a combination of the RFID technology with the vision technology with the barcode labeling to get you a better outcome.
Tell us a little bit about how machine vision is being applied in warehouse operation.
We see it really in 4 major places today. And it's where we pass chain of custody from one facility to another facility, whether that's a storage and put away, whether it's where we're going to process and load onto a truck, whether it's going to be taking chain of custody from my vendor into my plant. So anywhere we have a change of chain of custody, we have an opportunity to automate as much data collection as possible passively, to your point. So the easiest example I could give you would be something like a dock door scanner, right? Where we use machine vision to classify everything that we can about a pallet inbound. So traditionally, the data that we need to collect, I'm looking for the ASN or my barcode on the front that identifies this pallet came from this order. and is destined for these 16 stores, right? So I need to be able to take that in. I need to be able to store it sometimes, or I need to get straight to distribution. But we also want to know a little bit more about that, right? Is there anything else that I can use AI and multimodal data collection to be able to capture? If I augment RFID, so I'm looking for all of the articles inside, and I take that and I combine it with my machine vision that's looking for barcodes, I'll be able to capture both of those and combine them and say, you know what, I'm going to do an inventory integrity check. If I'm confident enough that I've got near 100% and I know what the order is, let's go ahead and automate that entire receive process. I don't have to scan every barcode on that pallet. And then taking that up another level, we can take a look at things like the condition. Some simple things, I think we talked about this when we were chatting before, but looking at the consistency of a box is really an important thing. If we take a look in transport, sometimes boxes aren't stacked or pallets aren't stacked properly. It gets damaged in transit. Things happen on the truck. If we're looking at the bottom corner of one of those boxes and we see that it's not a perfectly clean edge, it's important to say, you know what, we're going to flag this one for staging, right? It's going to go off to a staging zone instead of direct put away, because I want to make sure that it doesn't go up into high bay, right? And the last thing you want to have happen is a high bay truck going in and grabbing with their high-low and pulling down a pallet that's unstable and could potentially dump over while they're pulling it off. Warehouse accidents are an absolute safety hazard. So when you start to combine all of the different facets of what you can collect for data and what meaning it has to making the decision to move the product in the right way, that's an easy example of something we would keep low and put on an AMR to transport instead of something we would send in a traditional high-low to do a put-away operation. You know what, let's just, even though there's no demand for the store today, we're going to move it and we're going to get it into a truck because we don't want to store that. Right? That's now a way to capitalize on the value of your no loss in labor. The product is moving and it's just going to be stored at the store for a little while longer, where you can take that overpack off and still sell those goods inside.
Yeah, I think a lot of these inspection use cases, high-speed scanning is obviously kind of where we started with the portfolio. So we built out, 5 to 6 years ago, we started an organic investment around leveraging the heritage we have in data capture from barcode reading and inventing the first handheld barcode scanner, and then bringing that to, conveyance and high-speed scanning. And then we did a number of acquisitions on the software space and also working with Peak to look at not just in the logistics side of things, but also in manufacturing, and then on the multimodal side and the AI side of things. I think that this is getting really interesting, and we may not even know all the things that make sense to inspect overtly with some of these vision language models. They can just understand the scene they're looking at, and then you can start to query that scene. So have you ever seen the following scenario?
Yeah.
And you can just ask that question, and the data that it's collected over weeks or months can be mined in order to pull that information out. That's a kind of access we never had before.
Yeah.
I think it's actually going to unlock new use cases,
Yeah.
because if you get to a use case, you have to know the right question to ask. And, you may not think of that question
Yeah.
until you've got all the data to go and query and start playing around with it. So I think that's another really frontier we're just on the cusp of right now.
I was going to say, I think that's actually the coolest unlock that we're looking at right now, is how we can make a quick decision with predictable models.
Yeah.
But then when we start to look at what we call anomalies, the things that don't make sense, having a VLM process that for us and be able to say, hey, consistently we see these problems over here and this is what it is, and it'll classify it for you without a human having to process it. That's what unlocks the new level of automation, where we're now able to take that decision, take all of the enriched data that they're able to provide from the context that we don't even have as a human, and then turn that into a decision that we can make and still pass into our automation system. So it kind of removes the blockage today of when we don't know what it is, just kick it off the line and somebody will figure it out later. And that's a super manual process today. We can make that more efficient, but we can also use this new modality of, we've got edge models that are used to be able to move the product. And then we have this additional layer of models that are now able to do what like ChatGPT would do when you give it a quick prompt, but now with image processing, and get it to near real time, where we're getting responses for something that we wouldn't know what to do with. And it's giving us the guidance that we need to make an informed decision with an event bus instead of a person, so we can still automate that transaction in 6 seconds.
Sometimes we have these kind of anomalies within operations. Like I'm thinking of, use case where, we get a container and then we leave a hole in the container, we get some water in there. And like, how did we handle that in the past, right? Because this doesn't happen every single day, right? And if we can query and find the instance of that, it's like, okay, we can pull all the records like easily to figure that out. And this is how we did it in the claim and all these other things, or this is how we handled it for a customer. Right. And I think that really is powerful to be able to do that. So I'm curious, we talked a lot about technologies here. Where does someone start with this stuff? Because there's a lot of different applications. It sounds like a lot of different options. So where would you direct them to get started? What should they invest in first? Is it RFID? Is it machine vision? Where's really that starting point?
So, I mean, typically from my perspective, it starts at understanding the use case, right? So the great thing about partnering with Peak and Zebra is we understand what the technology is capable of. And so we will go out with our customer base, we'll do a site walk, we'll look at the environment, we'll understand what's there, and then we're able to apply the right technology to the right situation to solve, what they're trying to unlock, right? Is it a pinhole in the bottle that's causing the cardboard to leak or whatever. So the normal process would be to engage with one of the people on our teams, and then we'll go to your facility. We'll work with you to see your environment, your specific use case, because not every warehouse is the same, or not every environment is the same.
Yeah, I was just, what popped into my head as you're asking the question, Kevin, is something we have that's called the warehouse maturity model. And basically it's similar to what Tony's saying.
Yeah.
It's sort of baseline, where are you on the maturity model? So if you think about a vector of automation, where you maybe are operating off of a, pencil and clipboard, graduating up from there to, we spoke about things like manual scanning and the scan tunnels, and then RFID, then multimodal RFID, then autonomous mobile robots that can do material transport, and then those AMRs collaborating with people. And so you start to move more and more towards automation as you move up on this maturity model. I think the biggest thing, like Tony said, it's really important to baseline, because what goes wrong is if you try to skip too many levels, you can find yourself in a tough spot. Because I think the other thing that needs to be thought about is change management. So with all the talk of the tech, at the end of the day, people have to sort of adopt what gets deployed, and they have to become comfortable with it and use it the right way. And not then we've seen this in certain examples, particularly with automation, like when stress starts to hit, hey, we're not moving, we're not getting the throughput we need. And it's, well, the robot's not doing the right thing, or what, then it gets pushed to the side, and then people fall back to the way they were doing it before. And then next thing you know, you're not adopting the technology that you deployed. So really looking at that maturity model. And the nice thing about that, which we do together pretty frequently with customers, is it allows you to build out a nice roadmap. So you can say, hey, okay, the next 9-12 months, we're going to get on this maturity model from here to here. And then year 2, we're going to go to this level, and, kind of build out a plan that works with the CFO of that organization as well as the operations people. So that's been a pretty powerful guide for us.
These technologies obviously are allowing, a lot more to be possible, as we've talked about here today. And I think the one thing too, as I look, especially at like machine vision, right? I feel like it's a very kind of accessible technology, right? Talk about in the beginning, like, enabling brownfield operations essentially to do more with that. I think, are you seeing that the adoption of these types of technologies becomes much easier for operations versus some of the more advanced or automated type of solutions?
I think my favorite part about that question is that machine vision can really plug in anywhere in that warehouse maturity model. Because really, when we start to take a look at what the objective is, our goal is to collect data, right? We need to collect data about the package, where it is, where it's going, right? It's a very simple equation. So the first thing we need to figure out how to do is, how do I collect that data? And if it can do it without having to touch the box, I think that's a win. So we can start there sometimes for our data collection, and we can start to use that to enrich it. And at the end of the day, a barcode scanner is a camera. It's really the same modality. It's just how much information can I capture at the same time? So we can go in with a very inexpensive scanner all the way up to a very expensive scanner. The very expensive scanners are going to unlock a heck of a lot more data capture, where we can look at things like color, branding, consistency. Is the product damaged? And if it is, do I even bother sorting it through all my distribution to go from a PDC to an RDC to a store, and then find out it's damaged and ship it to a reclamation center? We wasted a lot of money in that process, right? So it depends on how advanced the distribution infrastructure is as to where we would land on that maturity model. But I do think that, to your point, machine vision is absolutely relevant. It's the foundation for what barcode scanning truly is.
Yeah.
We've had a lot of focus on exactly what you said, which is trying to make it as easy to deploy as possible. I mean, one of the challenges with machine vision is the category has been around for a very long, for decades. And the technology's advanced massively, but what it takes to set it up and configure and deploy maybe hasn't moved as fast as it could have. So we look at some of the software we have with Aurora Vision Studio, some of the Insights suite and software that the Peak team has. The idea is to make that much more kind of drag and drop. There's a term being used increasingly now in manufacturing called phrase decision entrepreneurism, which the idea is really to push down more and more decision capability, more and more empowerment, right down to the operator. This is in the case of manufacturing. So you think about the operator on the line, they can actually start to build composable solutions through drag and drop capability, as opposed to kind of having this hierarchy of, if I want to get something done, I have to submit a request. That takes time. People are too busy. Then it comes back down. And oh, by the way, you need a PhD to set this thing up. So we want to just make it so like you can plug these things in together. You can get started right away, and then you can push that empowerment down for people to improve the operations over time. And I think we're seeing a step change in that. We think that's one of the differentiators we can bring to the market together versus legacy. A lot of the legacy machine vision that's out there, who, by the way, aren't that motivated to make it easy to deploy because
Engineering dollars.
they've established themselves on the complexity of what it takes.
Sure.
So I would say think about ZebraPeak as you're looking for easy, fast wins.
When you talk about kind of the partnership between Peak and Zebra, right? Why should like the end user, the consumer that's looking to buy some of these technologies, why should they go somewhere like a Peak to get these things?
Yeah, so I think it's to Matt's point earlier, it's the bite size, right? So I mean, we've done this for decades, and we're very tightly aligned with all the different suppliers like Zebra, the great suppliers out there that have pieces of the solution, and so we can save people a lot of time and effort because we've been there, we've done it, we know what works, we know what doesn't work, so we can quickly get to a return on those bite-sized pieces, and we can work with the customer to do that quickly and efficiently. So instead of trying to go out there and figure it out on your own and poke and piece, we learn, fail fast and figure it out. We've already done that, and so we can help you get there right away. You've been to the executive briefing center. We have the ability to bring you in there, show you your own technology, your own product, your own stuff in that environment very quickly. Like within 24 hours, we've had customers ship stuff to us and test it out and validate their use case. And so that's the advantage of working with somebody like Peak, is that we've been there, we've done that. And then I think we also support the full life cycle, right? So we understand where these products are in their life cycle. We have field support, we have installation support, we have phone support. So we can put the full wrap around it so that you don't have to be there babysitting the technology or worrying about it every day. Let Peak do the worrying for you, and we'll take care of it.
It also comes with decades of partnership too.
Yeah.
Right? We're deeply engaged at the engineering level, from the highest levels all the way down to the people that are doing the build outs. So we've been designing solutions together, understanding the art of the possible versus what's practical, and finding the balance in between, right?
Yeah.
So when we look at what's practical and repeatable, that is what the partner community can deliver. And then as we're trying to investigate the art of the possible, we're trying to lean into the newer technologies together to see if we can create new solutions that can unlock that next level. So it's kind of that continuous evolution as well. So part of the reason that you would trust the Zebra and potentially Peak partnerships here is it allows us to be able to give you those solutions quickly, because we've already gone through that whole prototyping phase years ago, and we're at the place where those solutions are now repeatable. Well, we're still trying to help you evolve to what's coming next too. So use us so you don't have to build it yourself. We've already failed, and we've already figured out how to succeed after failing, because we like to fail fast.
Okay, fantastic, and great to talk to you all here today. So if people don't want to fail, succeed, right?
Yeah.
Find out more information about Peak.
Yeah, www.peaktech.com is a great place to go to start.
Yep, Zebra.com, and I think we're all pretty accessible on LinkedIn. So Zebra.com is a great place to get started. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, fantastic. And we'll put all that information at thenewwarehouse.com as well as in the show notes. And I believe you can see these guys at Modex too. Right?
Yeah, we'll be there
Very
too.
excited.
Yeah.
Sure.
And we'll be there too as well. We'll be checking out Peak and Zebra, see what the latest is. Hopefully some interesting things.
Yes.
We'll do some surprises on the way.
Yes, there are.
Mhm.
A little tease there. Get to that. So definitely check out all the information at thenewwarehouse.com and check out what Zebra and Peak are up to with the latest technologies. As we talked about, they're rapidly advancing. So make sure you stay up to date and make sure to reach out and learn more. So thank you guys so much for.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Kevin. Great to see you again.
Hey guys, thank you so much for tuning into today's video here on our YouTube channel, The New Warehouse Podcast, and I appreciate you tuning in. If you liked what you saw, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and if you like this video in particular, make sure you like it as well. And if you want to get this great t-shirt that you see in the video behind me, Warehouses Are Sexy, head to warehousesAreSexy.com and get your own.